I think, okay, so I think the main issue when it comes to a few people or even just two people that come to like a disagreement or they get into a huge argument, obviously both sides think they're right. Both sides are really fighting for the last word and the ability to say what it is they need to say so they feel heard. Every single person on the planet that I know to this point that is still fighting for the security within themselves wants to have the last word or wants to fight for the right to have the last word, because in that retrospect they believe that they are the victor in some form or another. However, if two people can't discuss something and see at least one valid point in the other person's story, or at least point out that they are in agreement of something the other person has said, maybe not all of it, but there is some sort of communication and understanding that there is a need for compromise in the fact of seeing or being open to the idea of another person's point of view. There's a lot of ways things can go when it comes to an argument. If it's only one-sided and the person that is refusing to even compromise for the other side, there's certain circumstances that are when it comes to something really heinous or something extreme, okay? Let's say somebody beats somebody else up physically, or they threaten their life and there's damage done. That's without question. There's usually um, a, the other person's side to it too, but it doesn't give them the right to act in that way. So both sides have a viewpoint and they're both valid for the reasons of their actions, but it doesn't justify the actions that they do. So when somebody takes it upon themselves to do or say something, especially when it comes to belittling somebody or making rude comments or something like that, a lot of people feel like it's an eye for an eye, but that really doesn't really solve anything. And when it comes down to it, calling names doesn't matter what side you are. Even myself has succumbed to doing that too when I'm reached to a certain trigger point. Because when I feel like I'm not being heard, or even my points are not being understood by the other person that I'm in an argument with, it is upsetting. And it would be upsetting for anybody that's in this situation because it means that they're not being heard. Unless you've come to a full acceptance and understanding that you're not always going to be understood and you have no reason to explain yourself whatsoever. In my circumstances, sometimes when I get in arguments with people, I feel the need to explain myself because that's a habit that I used to do my entire life. Because even when there were situations that I was not responsible for, I was being held accountable for and being almost tried for as guilty, even though I had nothing to do with it. So other than me just standing in place and being myself, the words that I say I'm responsible for, my actions I'm responsible for, I'm accountable for the decisions that I make. Other people outside of me, I'm not responsible for their words, I'm not responsible for their actions, I'm not responsible for the decisions they make. If I have an understanding of a way a situation is going to work out, and I think it highly positive that will work out that way, then that will sway my decision to go in that direction and go down that pathway. If things turn out a different way based off of somebody else's actions and what they do, I have no control over that. What I have control over is how is it I take the next steps. How is it that I'm going to take the next steps, and what is it I'm going to do moving forward after somebody else does something? What is my reaction to it going to be? And there's a lot of time that people get into arguments and it's only supposed to be one-sided. The other person says, nope, that's it. This is the point that I'm getting across and this is the truth of it and that's it. There is no room for you to have your point in. There is no room for you to say how it is or what decisions you make and why you made them. You're just wrong. Straight up, you're just wrong. Or, that whole idea of being extremely stubborn when it comes to an argument. Not seeing the other person's points or even listening to them at all can be problematic because then there's no resolution there. Because now it's just only one side that feels like they're being heard or that they're accepted for whatever the answer it is. and that the other party is not. So in my personal experience, when only one side is confirming for themselves, or other people have ganged together and confirmed that that's the only truth to it, there is nothing further to it, and there's no other valid points from another party that's trying to speak, I personally don't see that as fair. Even in any legal system, that would not be considered fair. So when it comes to certain situations, how we handle ourselves, how we speak, words we say, and the actions we take, and a lot of us are very intelligent to the point where we know what actions we're taking and how it's going to affect another person for the most part. People that are intuitive, people that understand that. So when I try to make a decision and it does not go the way that I had planned based off another person's actions, it's not necessarily just going to be held on me, other than the fact that I made the decision to go forward with that with good intention. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And then I have to decide what I'm going to do going forward. It doesn't necessarily mean that the whole situation in itself is wrong. It's just that it just did not work out that way, and lessons are to be learned from it for both sides. If another person is just strict in their reasoning for coming up against you in an argument, and they say, no, doesn't matter, even if you had good intentions, this fell to shit or whatever, and it's all your fucking fault, and blah, 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 and you should know this or you should do that. And if the other person is not accountable on their side, and you're only taking the accountability saying, yes, I did this, or yes, I did this, then there's going to be a problem there as well, because then only one person is learning anything. The other party that is deciding to argue against is not learning anything if they're not even willing to admit their side of it, just their part, nothing else, just their part in it. If they're not willing to do that, then it makes it really unfair as well. So a lot of people get heated, a lot of people get triggered. Some people don't explain themselves at all. It would be nice to reach that point. I still, to this day, am working on that. And other people feel the need to over-explain themselves, and they feel the need to even go back on whatever it is that they did to stand up for themselves, almost like to testify and stand up for themselves or represent themselves. They'll feel the need to go back on that just to make another person happy or to get to some resolution there, which is not fair either. And allowing another party just to walk all over you just because you're willing to go back on it to make everybody happy is also old programming. It's something that's learned early and something that's taught to us. And it's not healthy either, because if we don't have the ability or the courage to stand up for ourselves, that becomes problematic as well. And other people will walk all over you, people that don't really see an issue with taking your kindness for granted or using it to their advantage in some way. And then if overstepping the boundaries, you say something, now all of a sudden you're the culprit, you're the problem. So that could be an issue there too.